Thanks for downloading Ehnother Podcast from Ehnotherpodcast.com. Today's show can be found in many ways. iTunes, the Ehnotherpodcast.com webpage, and now can be found on Stitcher.com. You can now stream the latest show anywhere with the Stitcher app, on your computer, even on your boss's computer. Ehnother Podcast is now at your fingertips every day of the week and at your convenience. Enjoy today's episode of Warlock Wednesdays. Ehnotherpodcast.com. Not a sponsor. Hello everyone and welcome to another Warlock Wednesdays. This is the Warlock Hour. I am your host Razor and we have a great show lined up for you. I've got a few things that are controversial issues to talk about as we progress through the show here, and a lot of entertainment news, but we'll get to that in a minute. And of course we'll wrap up the rest of the show with sports. I know not a lot of you stick around for that section, but that's okay. I still love doing it, and it's my podcast, so I will continue to do that. Let's start the show as we do every week with your comic book releases for the week from DC Comics. Again, continuing in the Villains Month, we have Batman number 23.3 featuring the Penguin on the cover. Not part of the Villains Month, but coming out this week, Batman 66 number 3. That's the throwback series to the old Adam West 60s show with Adam West and Burt Ward starring as Batman and Robin, and this comic is done in that kind of style. Justice League number 23.3 featuring Black Hand on the cover. Teen Titans number 23.3 featuring Deathstroke on the cover, and Wonder Woman number 23.1 featuring the Cheetah on the cover. From Marvel this week, Captain Marvel number 16, Infinity number 3 of the 6-part miniseries continuously going on in the Marvel Universe. New Avengers number 10, Savage Wolverine number 8, and Uncanny X-Men number 12. And from some of the independent studios, which some of these companies may not technically be independent, but they're not the two majors. But let's just get to them. Boom Studios putting out Adventure Time number 20. Dark Horse Comics, Conan the Barbarian number 20. From Dynamite Entertainment, Vampirella number 34. And from IDW Publishing, Doctor Who number 13. Ghostbusters number 7. And X-Files Season 10, number 4. Now let's backtrack kind of a Freudian slip there. Let's backtrack a bit up to the DC Comics world. And DC Comics is under some heat as of recent weeks. And first we have the Batwoman Gate. Now, what this is Batwoman, as many of you may or may not know, is a gay character in the comic universe, in the DC universe. She is a lesbian, and openly in the comics, she's engaged to Maggie Sawyer in the comics. Now, writers J.H. Williams III and W. Hayden Blackman have quit the series on the grounds that DC has forbade them to have these two people, Kate Kane, who is Batwoman, and her fiancé, Maggie Sawyer, to get married. DC has said they will not allow this whatsoever. Their explanation goes as follows. They put on a cape and a cowl for a reason. They're committed to defending others at the sacrifice of all their own personal instincts. That's something we reinforce. If you look at every one of the characters in the Batman family, their personal lives kind of suck. Tim Drake, Barbara Gordon, and Kathy Kane, it's wonderful that they try to establish personal lives, but it's also just as important that they put it aside as they know what they are accomplishing, as the hero takes precedence over everything else. That is our mandate, that is our edict, that is our stand with our characters. So, let me get this right, and this is from Dan DiDio, and he's basically trying to say that nobody in the Batman universe could ever get married, ever. He's like a freaking child right now. He's using this statement as a premise to say we cannot have relationships in the DC universe, especially not in the Batman universe. Yet, let's take a look at some of the things that we've seen in the DC universe, specifically the Batman universe. Have we not witnessed the Joker brutally and savagely kill Tim Drake, a young boy, with a crowbar? Yes, I believe we have. Have we not seen the Joker return in Death of the Family and basically almost like destroy the entire universe of the Batman family? We have seen so many different things. We have seen recently in the Batgirl issues, we've seen her kill her own brother. Only we know as the readers that he's still alive, but according to Jim Gordon and Batgirl, aka Barbara Gordon, he's dead. They've killed off people. They've brutally and savagely beat up a boy all the time. They killed Damian Wayne recently, who was a very young boy. Why is this acceptable, and yet you cannot let Batwoman marry her fiancé? Let's look at another list of events just since the New 52. Superman blew Dr. Light's head off. Catwoman was graphically shot in the head. Yes, it was later revealed to have been Martian Manhunter in disguise, but it's still been done. As I said, a 12-year-old boy, Damian Wayne, was shot to death and died in his father's arms. And that's not to mention the infamous sex scenes between Batman and Catwoman, Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor, and Starfire and, well, pretty much anybody. But DC has shown children being graphically killed but won't allow a character to have a loving relationship legally recognized. To me, that is horrible, and it's stupid. And I commend the writers for quitting. I commend the writers and I believe the inker. I'm not exactly sure which is which. They might just be both writers, because I don't read the Batwoman comics, unfortunately. But they forbade the marriage of Batwoman, aka Kate Kane, to her fiancée Maggie Sawyer. So the writers said, you know what? If this is how you're going to treat us, we don't want to write for you. I commend them for leaving, and kudos to them. Now, not only is DC in trouble for that, DC decided to hold a comic drawing contest. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying Harley Quinn is my favorite character in the DC universe. Anybody who knows me can attest to that. Everything about her I love. She's amazing. She's done everything. I still love the OG Harley the most, of course, that first appeared in the animated series, Batman the Animated Series, back in, I guess, 1992. So, I just love the character of Harley Quinn. Now, recently, DC has put out a contest where they were asking the general public to submit their work to basically have a panel in the upcoming Harley Quinn standalone series. Harley Quinn is seemingly about to commit suicide, although I'll read you exactly what they said in the description for the contest. Harley sitting naked in a bathtub with toasters, blow dryers, blenders, appliances, and all dangling above the tub, and she has a cord that will release them all. We are watching the moment before the inevitable death. Her expression is one of, oh well, guess that's it for me, and she has resigned herself to the moment that is going to happen. Now, the contest goes on to say they're asking to illustrate 4 scenes featuring Quinn. One is of her standing atop a building during a lightning storm, one of her sitting in an alligator pond wearing raw chicken, one of her standing in the mouth of a whale, and one of her nude in the bathtub, with the description I just read. Now, of course, since this happened, DC has put out a statement. We believe that instead of making light of suicide, this isn't the statement from DC. This is the statement from people who are treating the mental illness that can lead to suicide. Like the American Psychiatric Association and the National Alliance on Mental Illness were interviewed by the Huffington Post, and they said, "We believe that instead of making light of suicide, DC Comics could have used this opportunity to host a contest looking for artists to depict a hopeful message that there is help for those in crisis." Now, that's fine and dandy, and I respect that statement, but Harley Quinn is kind of psychotic herself. However, they go on to say, on behalf of the tens of millions of people who've lost a loved one to suicide, this contest is extremely insensitive and potentially dangerous. We know from research that graphic and sensational depictions of suicide can contribute to the contagion. But, okay, and that's all perfectly well and true. Now, the character does have not necessarily suicidal tendencies, even though she is part of a group called the Suicide Squad. I mean, that if anybody's read it, or even if you kind of glimpse past it, you know what that squad is. They're basically they're convicts that an organization is using to go and do the dirty work, sort of like Black Ops, only they're using convicts because if they die, they're not too worried about it because, well, they're convicts. They've gone on to say that things like arguably Quinn is one of the most sexualized female characters in the DC universe. Probably, again, true. Now, some of the worries are that with this kind of contest, at least the way it was worded as I read it, you're going to get people putting out stuff for explicitness. It's not going to be a work of true artistry. They could have done so many other things that pretty much could have been a lot more tamer. They could have had, okay, forget the suicide stuff that came out of this. The first panel, the first scene that they said, one of her standing atop a building during a lightning storm. Now that alone does not suggest any suicidal tendencies. Standing on top of a building in Gotham, in the comics, is perfectly normal. And the fact that it's a thunderstorm doesn't mean anything. That one's fine. Even one of her sitting in an alligator pond wearing raw chicken, a little bit on the borderline, but come on. Lady Gaga wore a meat dress. It's kind of pop culture at this point. Alligator pond notwithstanding. But they could have done more to have less leeway. Now, a statement from Jimmy Palmiotti, who is the scriptwriter for the Harley Quinn scene, had this to say. That the tryout Harley Quinn page went out without an overall description of tone and dialogue is all my fault. I should have put it clearly in the description that it was supposed to be a dream sequence with Amanda and I talking to Harley and giving her a hard time. I should have also mentioned we were thinking a Mad Magazine / Looney Tunes approach was what we were looking for. We thought it was obvious with the whale and chicken suit, and so on, but learned it was not. I'm sorry for those who took offense. Our intentions were always to make this a fun and silly book that broke the fourth wall and head into issue 1 with an ongoing story adventure that is a lot like the past Power Girls series we did. I hope all the people thinking the worst of us can now understand that insulting or making fun of any kind was never our intention. I also hope that they can all stop blaming DC Comics for this, since it was my screw-up. The idea for the page to find new talent is an amazing one, and we hope that that can be the positive that comes forward from today on, that we can get some new talent working in our field because of this unique opportunity. And a DC Comics rep released this statement. The purpose of the talent search was to allow new artists an opportunity to draw a single page of a 20-page story. True to the nature of the character, the entire story is cartoony and over-the-top in tone, as Harley Quinn breaks the fourth wall and satirizes the very scenes she appears in. The statement goes on to say, DC Entertainment sincerely apologizes to anyone who may have found the page synopsis offensive and for not clearly providing the entire context of the scene within the full scope of the story. And I think they did that because they didn't want to reveal everything about the first issue. Now, basically what this says to me me is that the new writers for this standalone comic, Jimmy and Amanda, have decided that they are going to have her break the fourth wall, much like Deadpool does in the Deadpool comics. Now, anybody who's read a Deadpool comic knows that this character and Harley Quinn are going to be quite similar in their natures. Harley Quinn, in a quote-unquote dream sequence, is going to suggest that instead of doing the scenes that the writers, Jimmy and Amanda, want her to do, she might as well just, maybe I'll just do this, and she'll dress in the chicken dress or chicken suit and hop into the alligator pond. It's, when put into context, it's obviously not as bad as it sounds, but when you release something, you have to proofread it. But DC, because of these two issues, has come under serious fire, and now they have to kind of backtrack a little bit, and when you're always backtracking, it's always painful. And, with comic sales not being what they used to be, I think this was something that they were trying to make new, trying to make different. So, I look forward to the comic. I will be buying Harley Quinn comics. As I said, I am a big Harley Quinn fan. To go back to the Batwoman thing, again, I applaud the two writers that decided to leave the comic instead of accepting what DC has basically said is, you can't do this because we forbid you to do it, and gave a weak water answer as far as I'm concerned. As far as they're concerned, it's just total bullshit. It's what it is. Alright, so that's it for comics for this week, so let's get into some movie news, and let's see what the top 10 were at the box office this past weekend. Not surprisingly, the number one movie was Insidious Chapter 2. This movie cost a $5 million to make, with probably, works up to about $10 million with advertising. $40.2 million. Biggest September opening of all time, with $40.2 million, and after a weekend like that, it has already been greenlit for a third movie. That's right, Insidious Chapter 3 has already been greenlit from one weekend of work. Not bad for a low-budget film. I still haven't even seen the first one. I know, people are already, what? But sometimes I just avoid movies because of what they're promoted as. Now, Insidious, the first one, was promoted as from the people who brought you Paranormal Activity. Well, as soon as I see that on a poster, I'm done. I will not see a movie that's from the people that did Paranormal Activity. Why? Because I thought Paranormal Activity was a horrible movie. I think it's terrible. I think it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's not as bad as the Blair Witch Project, but pretty damn close. It's boring as shit, and I don't like it. So when they say it's from the people that did this, well, it's like, well, then I'm not going to go see that. So that's how it is. Anyways, moving on. Number 2 on the list, the other new movie this week, The Family, brought in $14 million. Number 3 on the list, Riddick drops to number 3 with $6.8 million. Lee Daniels is the butler, comes in at 4 with $5.5 million. Just to go back to Riddick for a moment, it's in its second week, already at $30.1 million of its $38 million, close to $48 million budget with advertising and stuff. Worldwide, Riddick is close to making its budget back. In fact, I would say... quick addition. Actually, it's over. It's at $53 million, so it's definitely made its budget worldwide. Will it make it here in North America is always the determining factor. I don't think we'll see another Riddick movie. I think he just wanted to close it out. But there is, without spoiling it, there is a way that there is a possibility for a fourth one. And if it's done in this style, I think it could be very successful. I think word of mouth has made this movie better than what it was when people were going in thinking of Chronicles of Riddick, which was just a horrible movie. This one was more along the lines of Pitch Black, and Pitch Black was just a fantastic movie. Okay, so let's continue on the list. As I said, Lee Daniels is the butler is number 4. Number 5 on the list, We're the Millers, $5.4 million. Number 6, Instructions Not Included, $4.8 million. Number 7, Planes, $3.1 million. Number 8, One Direction, This Is Us, $2.4 million. Number 9, Elysium, $2.1 million. And rounding out the top 10, Percy Jackson, Sea of Monsters, another $1.8 million for that. So that's your movie releases for last week and what they made. What's coming out this Friday, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. Battle of the Year. Wow, that was hard to get out of my mouth. Battle of the Year comes out this week. One of those dancing movies that are very popular. It will do some business, I'm guessing, in the $15 to $20 million range, depending on distribution, depending on how many screens it's going to be on. The other movie coming out this week, Prisoners, starring Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Terrence Howard. That one looks pretty good. I'm hoping to check it out. And also in limited release, but something I wanted to mention, The Art of the Steal. Mostly I wanted to mention it because it looks pretty damn good. It may not be coming to a theater near you this week, but it should be coming within the next couple of weeks as the expanded release comes out. As I said, this is a limited release, which probably means less than 1,000 screens. And that's all across North America, so that's not a lot of screens when you think about most wide releases are released on over 3,000 screens. So you're talking 1/3 of North America are actually going to get this movie, or less. I don't know what the numbers are going to be, but it's going to be under 1,000. So The Art of the Steal, though, stars Jay Baruchel and Kurt Russell, and I believe can't even think of his name now. I can picture him. I'm not going to look it up, but it looks really darn good, and I'm hoping that my theater gets it eventually. I know it's not getting it this week, but I'm looking forward to seeing this whenever I get to see it, whether it's in theaters in a couple of weeks or whether it's on DVD in a couple of months. So, looking forward to that. So that's your movie releases. Let's get into some movie news. Alright. The internet blew up this week, as it does when news is released, that J.K. Rowling was going to be teaming up with Warner Brothers to make a new Harry Potter-esque movie. Everybody was like, oh my god, she's writing a new Harry Potter book! No. No, she is not writing another Harry Potter book. In fact, she's not writing another Harry Potter book. She's not writing another Harry Potter prequel. She is writing a script, a screenplay, based on a fictional textbook from the world of Harry Potter. Okay, so let me kind of make this up. Anybody who knows Harry Potter knows of the book Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. In fact, she wrote a very small version of the book. It came, I believe it was green. I can't find my copy, so I can't remember right now. But it was green, and it was Fantastic Books and Where to Find Them by the author Newt Scamander. And basically what it was told all the different, like, mythological beasts that you could find in the world of Harry Potter. There was, like, the Grindylow, and the Griffin, and the Hippogriff, and the, just the different things that you see in the world of Harry Potter. A Kniezel, or however you say that. There was just many different beasts in there. So the screenplay is going to basically, and it's going to be hopefully a film series. This is what they want. They want a film series. And it will be following the author, Newt Scamander. And it will take place 70 years before the events of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And for you Americans who listen out there, you call it Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or the Sorcerer's Stone. I'm sorry, but why can't you call it the Philosopher's Stone? I never got that. Everywhere else in the world, it's Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Except in the US. You had to be different, didn't you? Weird. Anyways, I digress. Newt Scamander is the author, and what this is going to do, this is going to be a movie following the exploits of Newt Scamander as he comprises this book, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and therefore will probably not feature anyone from the Harry Potter universe. The only characters that I could ever see popping up as maybe a cameo role is maybe Dumbledore, a very young Dumbledore, so it wouldn't even be played by Michael Gambon, because he'll be too old. I don't even see that happening. However, she's not writing a new book. She is writing a screenplay. In fact, it's her first screenplay. She's never written a screenplay before, so it is definitely something new to her, because a screenplay is very different than a book. She's an excellent author. I have no doubts that she will succeed triumphantly. However, when you're an author of a book, you can put in a lot of details. You can put in descriptions. You can put in so much. But when you write a screenplay, you have to be very different. You have to know exactly what you want on each page. Because basically, a screenplay translates 1 page of a screenplay translates to 1 minute of a movie. Now, most screenplays are in the 90 to 120 pages range, meaning an hour and a half to a 2-hour film. I'm looking this to be about an hour and a half-ish film. I don't expect this to be the 2-hour film. However, it is J.K. Rowling writing. She likes to write. This is going to be new for her, so we're going to see something very different. Now, here's what she had to say. It all started when Warner Brothers came to me with the suggestion of turning Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them into a film. I thought it was a fun idea, but the idea of seeing Newt Scamander, the supposed author of Fantastic Beasts, realized by another writer was difficult. Having lived for so long in my fictional universe, I feel very protective of it, and I already knew a lot about Newt. As hardcore Harry Potter fans will know, I liked him so much that I even married his grandson, Rolf, to one of my favorite characters from the Harry Potter series, Luna Lovegood. So, she already has stories in mind. I like the fact that she's writing the screenplay. As I said, it's something different, and maybe it'll keep some stuff fresh, because it really can be a wonderful new series. I'm not looking at this one as a 7 or 8 picture thing. I'm looking at this as possibly a 3 picture type thing, a trilogy of sorts. Now, for those of you wondering about her book writing, she has now gone on to the crime writing phase. In fact, she released a novel called Cuckoo's Calling, which I'm about 75% through, and it is fantastic so far. My girlfriend's already read it, and she says it's amazing. But when she released the book, she released it under a pseudonym, Robert Galbraith. Now, the book did okay. It sold about 1,000 to 1,500 copies in its opening week, and, expanded a little bit here and there. But then it was revealed that Robert Galbraith was actually J.K. Rowling. As soon as that happened, boom, #1 book in the world. It sold 17,662 copies after it was revealed that she was the author, and it was above Dan Brown's Inferno. It skyrocketed above Second Honeymoon by James Patterson, and in the UK, it was the 3rd highest behind John Grisham's The Racketeer and her own other adult novel, The Casual Vacancy. Now, Rowling reaffirmed that she used the pseudonym Robert Galbraith, and this is how she chose to make the pseudonym. She said she wanted to take her writing persona as far away from her as possible. When she released the book, she wanted it to be released on its merits, not the fact that she was J.K. Rowling, which is great. She said she would not do personal appearances, and she would not provide a photograph. Here's what she had to say about the name. When I was a child, I really wanted to be called Ella Galbraith. I've no idea why the name had a fascination for me. I actually considered calling myself L.A. Galbraith for the Strike series, but for fairly obvious reasons, I decided that initials were a bad idea. I know a number of soldiers, and I'm close to 2 people in particular who were incredibly generous as I researched my hero's background. One of these friends is from the Special Investigations Bureau, so while Strike himself is entirely fictional, his career and the experiences he's had are based on factual accounts of real soldiers. Now, she chose the name Robert because of her hero. Sorry, I lost my place. She chose the name Robert because of her political hero, Robert F. Kennedy, and Ella Galbraith, as she said, was her name that she always wanted to be. So Robert Galbraith became her male crime writing persona. She's already revealed that she will be writing a sequel to this book, and it will be out in sometime in 2014, and she will still continue to write under the pseudonym Robert Galbraith for this series. She will sign books as Robert Galbraith. So, folks, she's not writing a new book other than the crime writing books. There is no Harry Potter book coming. Get it through your thick skulls. She's done writing Harry Potter books. She's doing a screenplay. That's how she's going to venture off. Now, people always tend to be stubborn when it comes to this. It's just like the people who wanted Christian Bale to play the new Batman. Give it a rest. It's over. She's done with it. You had 7 amazing books, 8 fantastic movies. Like, give the woman a rest. Read Cuckoo's Calling. It's amazing. Now, this is going back a little bit. However, recently it's come to light that there was a chance, a very small chance, that Wolverine was going to be in The Amazing Spider-Man. Now, in an interview at the Toronto Film Festival, Hugh Jackman was asked, "I read where you were saying how much you'd like to act opposite Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, but of course the studio rights prevent that. Is there anything stopping you from just walking by in a scene where the character's name isn't mentioned?" And then he said this: "In the first Spider-Man," Kevin Feige reminded me of this, "we really tried to get me to come on and do something, whether it was a gag or just to walk through the shot or something. The problem was we couldn't find the suit. The suit was stuck in something. And so when they were in New York, when I was there, we couldn't get it together. So, I actually asked some high-level people about it because the optimist in me goes, why not? Why can't we do it? A split cast or whatever." And someone reminded me that the amount of money Fox paid compared to the amount of money Disney paid is very different. So how you split that pie up, God knows. But in the comic books, what's great about it is that they're just mashing together all the time, and it's awesome. And people are like, yeah, well, let's get this one with that. And I still think one day there may be an ability to do that. Excuse me. So, we almost have a Wolverine little cameo coming by in The Amazing Spider-Man. Now, here's the problem. Fox is the most stubbornest company, that's not probably even a word, the most stubborn company I have ever seen when it comes to these movie rights. They're stupid, too. I guarantee you, we will see Spider-Man in an Avengers movie before we'll see any of the Fox-owned properties, which is all the X-Men, including Wolverine and Deadpool, or any of the Fantastic Four people, simply because Sony is willing to talk. Sony is willing to basically say, let's get this done, because you know what? This means big money for both of us. And you kind of split the pie almost down the middle, I would say. Or at least, contribution-wise. Okay, Avengers is probably going to have a lot more people from the Disney side of things than they're going to have from the Sony side of things. But you work out a percentage. Hell, if you can get all 3 studios together, just work it out at 33.3%. It's very simple. Warner Brothers released a statement about what Batman will be in the upcoming Batman-Superman combo movie Man of Steel 2. And Kevin Sugihara, who is the CEO of Warner Brothers, said he will be tired and weary and seasoned and been doing it for a while. We think it's going to be huge. And that's basically all he said. Tired, weary, and seasoned. That's what Ben Affleck's Batman is supposed to be. Who knew? Apparently he did. Alright, Fast and the Furious 7 news. Adds a new cast member. Already having huge numbers. They've added Jaimin Hanzo, which I believe I might have mentioned last week. But not only that, they have added Tokyo Drift star Lucas Black. And when they signed Lucas Black, he signed on for 3-picture deal. Will there be an 8th and 9th entry in the franchise? I don't know. From everything I've read, Fast and Furious 7 will be the final one as it's wrapping up in Los Angeles. The setting is Los Angeles. It's actually going to be shot in, I think, Atlanta or something like that. But it just appears... Why would you sign this guy for 2 more movies after Fast and Furious 7? Unless they're taking his character and spinning it off. Now, they've already talked about spin-off franchises. Maybe this is the character that Dwayne Johnson's character is going to be taken up with in his spin-off movies, or maybe they're going to get more spin-off movies on their own, or maybe they're just going to continue this franchise and beat it to death. Who knows? At 7, I think it's already been beaten to death, but they still succeed. The first 3 were questionable. The first one was amazing. And then it kind of went down a little bit for the second one, and down a little bit more for the third one, but then it jumped back up for the 4th and 5th and 6th, and, So, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 just seems way too much. Remake news, as we must do almost every week, it seems. It seems, The Gambler, which originally starred, I believe, James Caan? Yes, James Caan, Paul Sorvino, and Lauren Hutton, way back in 1974, is going to be remade with possibly Rupert Wyatt directing, who directed Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and starring Mark Wahlberg. So that's a possibility. For you Mortal Instruments fans, I have sad news. Since the movie has not done very well, it has done only 60, or let's see, I'm going to jump back a little bit just to take a quick peek. So far, it has made just over $29.6 million here in North America, with a worldwide total of 68. Okay, so $68 million. The budget for this film was $60 million. It's not looking good for a sequel, but they haven't canceled it. They've just pushed it back indefinitely. It could still mean that we'll see a sequel, but this movie is going to have to succeed extremely well in the DVD market. A statement from the production company states that it will use the time to, quote, analyze the results to date and reposition the franchise in order to maximize results for future installments. Constantine Films' Martin Mazkowicz says Constantine Films has a long tradition of adapting books to the big screen. Pushing back the start of production of City of Ashes, which is the sequel to City of Bones, was a decision we did not take lightly, but after speaking with all of our partners on the creative and distribution side, it was clear that it will be beneficial to have more time to reposition the film in the current marketplace. The Mortal Instruments series has an incredibly loyal and ardent fan base and is a best-selling book series. While taking Cassandra Clare's vision to the screen, we want to make sure to draw on the full potential of the franchise. So, it sounds to me like they still plan on making the sequel, but it's just a question of where they can release it and when they can release it to maximize their profits. And maybe, for something like this, maybe they need to take the kind of Harry Potter, Hunger Games franchise approach and release it in like a November or maybe even an early spring release, like in an April or something like that. That might maximize their profits. I think a summer movie for them was incorrectly planned, and that's just my thinking. Speaking of the Hunger Games, Mockingjay Parts 1 and 2 has cast their President Alma Coin. Not giving too much away, but she's a pretty bitch. Pretty much what sums her up. So how do you hire a pretty bitch? Well, you go and hire a pretty bitch by hiring Julianne Moore. Julianne Moore is going to be playing President Alma Coin in Hunger Games Mockingjay Parts 1 and 2. Whew, lots of talking this week. Moving on to other casting news, Dumb and Dumber 2 has cast its female lead and she's playing a bad guy. Or a bad woman? She's playing the villain. It looks like. Anyways. And that villain is going to be played by Laurie Holden. That's right, Walking Dead fans. Laurie Holden will be joining the cast of Dumb and Dumber 2, and she will be the villain, quote unquote, of the piece. Her name will be Adele Pitchlow, and she will seek to use Harry and Lloyd as scapegoats for her evil scheme. Warner Brothers has issued a statement, again from CEO Kevin Tsujihara. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right, but I doubt he's listening, so They've decided that their basis for going into the future are going to be based in the DC comic universe very hardcore. 12 to 14 pictures are going to be coming from DC Entertainment, he says. We have Batman vs. Superman coming out in 2015. Now, did he spoil the title? I think he did not. I think that's what he's just calling it. Seriously, if anything, this should be called Superman vs. Batman, since it is Man of Steel 2 and not a Batman movie. That's one thing people keep seeming to forget. This isn't a Batman movie. This is a Superman movie. This is Man of Steel 2. And I still don't think it should be called Batman vs. Superman, even if they do fight each other. It should be called Man of Steel 2, World's Finest. I said that from the beginning. That's all they should call it. Fuck all this Batman vs. Superman shit. Quit it. Anyways, he goes on to say, but there are going to be in the coming months lots of announcements regarding the future of movie, television, games, and consumer product pieces that are going to be coming from DC. DC really does touch a lot of parts of our business and is an important part of the strategy and how we're going to grow going forward. Warner Brothers has owned DC Comics basically since the beginning of time. And that's AOL Time Warner. A little pun for those of you who know it. Basically, all the film rights has belonged to Warner Brothers since DC decided to make any movies. Warner Brothers has screwed the pooch on every aspect of this thing by never, ever, 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 ever combining any of its characters. This movie has been quoted by Kevin Smith as to be a guaranteed $2 billion movie. That's profit. That's how much he believes it's going to make Man of Steel 2 because it has Batman in it. He could be right. I think he's wrong. I think it will be very successful because it has Batman in a Superman movie and it's the first of its kind from DC/Warner Brothers. But it's been done. Marvel beat you to it. So I don't know if you can make enough to compete with that. That being said, there's also the backlash on Ben Affleck. Personally, I am still of two minds. I think it could be a brilliant casting. I also think it could be a horrible casting. From all the people bitching and complaining and whining on the internet, most of them probably still going to see the movie, you would think that this movie is going to fail. You would think, as Ralph Garman would say, this is a movie that will suck. Well, it could be, but couldn't any movie be a movie that will suck? Technically, there's been some great movies out there that have had great casts. Excuse me while I take a drink. That have had great casts and still sucked. There has been movies that have had poor casts and looked like they would suck and have been awesome. There's been movies that have had great trailers and look like, hey, I want to see that, and you go see it, and, well, you just saw everything in the trailer, and the movie sucked. One movie that always comes to mind when I think of trailers is Battlefield Earth. The trailer looked fantastic. The movie? Utter horseshit. It was terrible. Absolutely terrible. I could not believe the crap that came out of that movie. That being said, we don't know. We aren't going to find out till 2015. I just don't know what to expect. Now, speaking about this, Monday night on Jimmy Fallon, Ben Affleck was on there and he talked about Batman. He said Warner Brothers called him up and said, "Do you want to do this?" And I'm quoting him now. And I thought, well, I'm not 25, man. Are you sure about this? They said, come down. I want to show you what we're doing, and it was incredible. Zack Snyder is directing it. It's an incredible take on it. Obviously, you can't do what Christian did. Those movies are amazing, so he wants to do something different. And he said it's hard thing to do say anything without the materials, without giving away the story and what it is. Obviously, he's signed an NDA. For those of you who don't know what an NDA is, it's a non-disclosure agreement, which means he can't talk about the film, no matter what he's seen so far. And I mean, they're still away from production, probably start next year. The one thing I will say is that I think Ben Affleck can play that tired, weary, seasoned veteran that I talked about just a little bit ago. We look at when he started, and I know there's people out there that don't like Kevin Smith, but you know what? Kevin Smith has been such an inspiration to me that I take offense when you start bad-mouthing him. But you know what? Everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's why I do this podcast, because this is my opinion. I think Kevin Smith is a wonderful man. I think he does everything real. He does... excuse me. He leads his life in such a way that he's himself. He has made a business, a corporation almost, out of himself. He took his movies, he did his time making movies, and now he's doing podcasts. He's still making a couple more movies. He's got Tusk that he's making, and he's got Clerks 3 that is going to round out his career. He's also doing a mini-series called Hit Somebody. He's got TV shows that he's pitching. He's doing all the podcasting. He's out on tour right now with the Jason Mewes produced movie, Jay and Silent Bob's Super Groovy cartoon movie. I think Kevin Smith is very good. He's an inspiration to me. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't even be doing this podcast. Seriously, like, even though my friend asked me to do it for him, I probably would have said no if it wasn't for Kevin Smith. Because Kevin Smith has a philosophy, and it's why not? That alone makes me want to see Ben Affleck as Batman. Again, I have given my reasons already of why I don't think he should be Batman, but there's pluses and minuses. There's pros and cons for both things. I'm going to wait to see this movie. I don't think it's a $2 billion movie. That's where me and Kevin Smith disagree. But you know what? You don't agree with everybody all the time. In fact, I probably agree with Ralph Garman a lot more than I agree with Kevin Smith when I listen to a Hollywood Babylon podcast. Not a sponsor, by the way. It just seems to me that Ralph Garman and I are on the same wavelength, but we're not all the time. In fact, he is not interested in the Fall Guy movie. I am. I believe he was pro RoboCop, and I'm not. So the remake, that is. It's just we do share similar things, and we do get pretty temperamental about our point of views. The thing is, when it comes to Batfleck, I am reserving judgment at this point. I think Ben Affleck has proved that he can be charming. We've seen that in many of his movies, especially in his romantic comedies. We've seen that even in Kevin Smith movies. He's proved that he can be a little bit foreboding in a way. And I'm not talking Daredevil. Daredevil was a fiasco. But if you've watched a little Kevin Smith film known as Dogma, he had some great scenes in there. Now, a lot of it was with comedic jibe and everything, but he had some great scenes in there, and most of the stuff he's done recently, when you think to what I'm talking about here is like The Town and Argo, he's definitely got that part of it down. He's got Bruce Wayne nailed, if you're taking that into consideration. The question is Batman. Well, what's Batman really? Like, half of Batman is going to be a stunt guy, right? Because he's going to be doing all kinds of stuff that Ben Affleck probably won't be doing. As far as the voice is concerned, I'm sure he could talk in a deep voice. I mean, Christian Bale that was probably the worst part about Christian Bale's Batman, was listening to him talk. Right? Like, I think almost anybody can agree on that. I think it's just there's so much out there that could happen. And you know what? When you put stuff out on the internet, it's crazy. I am going to link the video in the description, and I will let you know, or you could check it out and listen to it. I mean, there's a little bit before he talks about Batman, but the one thing I do want to say is when he went on, like, he was told, well, can you handle this? Can you handle the backlash and everything? You know, the people on the internet, he goes, I'm a big boy, I can handle it. First comment he looked at when it was announced online that Ben Affleck as Batman was, no! And that was it. He was done with it. He had turned it off, and he just didn't watch it anymore. I will link the video in the description below so you can check that out for yourselves. Let's move on. I've talked enough about that. Alright. Fede Alvarez, the man who directed the remake Evil Dead, which was, I thought, really good, very well done. He's going to tackle a video game. And this video game is Dante's Inferno. This was a 2010 game which reimagines Alighieri as a Templar knight traversing the 9 circles of hell to rescue the soul of his beloved Beatrice. The plot of the video game represents a significant departure from the original text of Dante's Inferno, but it does have the specific layout of hell as described in Dante's Inferno. And a movie based on the video game, based on a book, could be interesting. And you know what? Fede Alvarez got me convinced with the Evil Dead thing. I'm willing to give him a chance at this. So we'll have to see what happens. And we'll go from there. EA's alongside as a producer, and they released the video game, by the way, just to let you know. I'm waiting to see something about this. That it's very good. More casting news for Expendables 3. This cast seems to be growing week by week as well, and the new Expendable is Kelsey Grammer. Kelsey Grammer is now confirmed to be playing ex-mercenary going by the name of Bonaparte. A role that was initially offered to Nicolas Cage. So that looks like Nicolas Cage is out and Kelsey Grammer is in. That's the news on that front. Moving on, the full cast for Chris Strander's Kill Me 3 Times has been announced, and it will star Simon Pegg, Sullivan Stapleton, Alice Braga, Teresa Palmer, Brian Brown, Callan Mulvey, and Luke Hemsworth. That's right, the third Hemsworth brother is going to make his big screen appearance finally. I believe he's done much work in Australia, which is where this movie will be filmed, and basically he's done a lot of TV work down there, a lot of made-for-TV movies, a lot of soap operas. In fact, most of our Australian big-time actors started on Australian soap operas, including the likes of Heath Ledger, Hugh Jackman, both the other Hemsworths, Chris and Liam, and now Luke's joining the foray with this movie, Kill Me 3 Times. I could go into a long description about it, but all I'm going to say is Simon Pegg is in it. I'm sold. I will be watching it. And more movie news. The bad guy in Avatar 2. Who's playing him? We don't know his name yet. The character that is, but we do know who's going to be playing that character. And that guy's name is Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's right, James Cameron will be once again teaming with his Terminator buddy, 20 years? 20 more plus years since they worked on Terminator? Arnold Schwarzenegger joining the cast of Avatar 2. That is very, very interesting. Alright, couple more entertainment news, and then we're going to take our break before sports. We got some television news for you. First of all, last week I told you the top 3 candidates for the role of Barry Allen, aka Flash, in the CW's Arrow, which is potentially leading to a Flash spin-off. Well, the announcement was made of who actually won, and it was the one guy I said I didn't want. And that's because, well, first of all, I didn't know any of these guys. But looking at the 3 pictures that was there, I wanted, I don't remember the guy's name at the moment. I'm blanking on it. Should look it up, but I think, was it Matt Barr? I think it might be Matt Barr. That might be what I was thinking of. But it doesn't matter, because the man who got it is the stupid Glee guy. And that would be Grant Justin. I'm still trying to find out if it was Matt Barr. I know there was 2 of them, other than the guy who got it. Maybe it wasn't Matt Barr. I'm trying to find the article. Okay, you know what? Doesn't matter. You're going to make it delay too long. But basically, I was wrong. I did not get the one I wanted. I don't even know how to say that. Okay, the guy I didn't want the guy least likely to play it, in my opinion, got the role. Grant Justin, the former Glee star, will be playing Barry Allen, aka The Flash. He will be in 3 episodes. It looks like he will be in episodes 8, 9, and 20. And 20 will be the kind of lead-in into the potential spin-off. So I would say in 8 and 9, he's just going to be Barry Allen, forensic... Is he a forensic anthropologist? No, that's Bones. Forensic scientist, sorry. He's going to be a forensic scientist in episodes 8 and 9. Then in 20, he will be the Flash. He will have the super speed, which also means, thank goodness, Arrow's no supers allowed. That's been nixed. We are getting a super, we are getting the Flash, and that opens the door for other supers, which is always good. Now, this other TV news for me is Geekgasm. That's right, the IT Crowd. The British show, the IT Crowd, BBC show. It's a fantastic show. If you haven't watched the 4 seasons that are out, watch them because they're amazing. They're very short. They're only 6 episodes each because it's a BBC show. That's the way they work. Unfortunately, the show is coming to an end. However, the internet is coming, which is what this episode is titled. It's a 45-minute episode-ish. It has a release date. It will be airing in the UK and Ireland on Friday the 27th of September at 9 p.m. That means I'm going to get to see it eventually. Excuse me. The episode will be approximately 45 minutes, as I said, and it will wrap up pretty much everything of the series. I love the show. Everybody's back. I'm so excited just because it's the last chance to see them, and I mean they've all gone on to do different things. I know Richard Ayoade has done some directing, and I'm probably butchering that name right now. He's also done a little bit of acting. I'm looking forward to more acting from him. I'm looking forward to I can't even think of their names. Chris O'Dowd. He's done a lot of movies, a lot of small roles. I'm looking forward to more of him. I don't know about the other actors because mostly those are the only 2 I care about, who play Moss and Roy. And I'm just so excited that this show is finally going to wrap up. And like as I said, it's going to include all the main members. For those of you who watch the show, that's as I said, Richard, Chris, and I can't think of her name, who plays Jen, and also even Matt Berry. Why can't I think of? I can think of his name, but I can't think of the girl who played Jen. It's just blanking because I'm so excited. But this show is coming the 27th of September. That's in the UK and Ireland, and over there across the pond. However, that doesn't mean that we can't get it over here on like Space or something like that in Canada. So I'm looking forward to it. And that is it for the entertainment news. I'm going to take a quick little break, and then I'll be back with sports. We're already at the hour mark, but that's okay. We're going to go longer this week. I haven't done a long episode in a while, so be back after the break with some sports.
Hi, I'm Rob Cicchetto, and you're listening to Ehnotherpodcast.com. Hi, I'm Rob Cicchetto, creator of Zombie Portraits. You can check out Zombie Portraits at zombieportraits.com.
And welcome back to the other side. That's right, we're on to some sports. Now, this week we've got a lot of stuff to get through. I might just cut off the fantasy report for this week, but let's get to the injury reports. Mostly because there were so many injuries this past week in the NFL. We're starting with the NFL, obviously. First of all, in Detroit, Detroit Lions running back Reggie Bush took a helmet to the knee from Arizona Cardinals player that left him sidelined for the rest of the second, or for most of the second half. Bush says he's ready to go. Coach, not too sure. Coach says that we're going to get a battery of tests, including an MRI, and we'll have to wait and see what happens with Reggie Bush. So, for those of you who do have him on your fantasy rosters, I know I said I wasn't going to talk fantasy, but we'll get a little bit in now and then because I'm not going to have a whole section on it. For those of you who do have Reggie Bush, I'd pay attention this week to see whether he's actually going to start. Over in Arizona, in the same game, Larry Fitzgerald had a hamstring injury that limited him to just 2 receptions, and spent most of his time also on the sidelines. Green Bay Packers starting running back Eddie Lacy was removed from the game due to a helmet-on-helmet hit from Washington Redskins safety Brandon Merriweather. Eddie Lacy suffered a concussion and was not available to play the rest of the day. James Starks came in and had a big day. Lacy's, as we know with concussions, it could take a while. So, again, for those of you who do fantasy football, James Starks had a big day, and if Lacy's going to miss any time, and James Starks is available in your leagues, you may want to pick him up. Now, speaking of Brandon Merriweather, who did the helmet-on-helmet hit, well, he did another helmet-on-helmet hit later in the game, this time on Starks, only he gave himself a concussion, so maybe he should stop the helmet-on-helmet hits. Now, I didn't look it up, but I'm hoping that he was fined and he's possibly going to be suspended for those helmet-on-helmet hits, because those are completely illegal. I know that Goldson of the 49ers was suspended for a helmet-on-helmet hit, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Brandon Merriweather, and maybe I'll just take a quick peek over on NFL.com just to see if there is any word on whether he got suspended or not. Sorry, folks. Shouldn't have any dead air. I hate dead air. So let's continue on while I do some searching. Cleveland Browns starting quarterback Brandon Weeden suffered a sprained right thumb in the loss to the Baltimore Ravens. X-rays were negative, but he will be a game-time decision this coming week. Houston Texans wide receiver Andre Johnson left the game late as the Texans won in overtime because he was concussed and taking concussion tests. So, okay, back to Brandon Merriweather. He will be fined and not suspended for his helmet-on-helmet hits. I guess they figured the concussion was probably better, well, not better, but equal to the spine. So, he's been fined before, so we could see a suspension if this continues to happen. The amount has not been released, but he was fined and not suspended. So that's what happened with Brandon Merriweather. So continuing on with the injuries, Falcons running back Steven Jackson hurt his thigh and will actually miss 2 to 4 weeks of game time. So the Atlanta Falcons lose their top running back. Ravens running back Ray Rice had a left hip flexor, and he will not undergo an MRI, but he was not able to finish that game, so we'll just have to keep an eye on him. MJD, Maurice Jones-Drew of the Jacksonville Jaguars, was in and out during the game against the Oakland Raiders, and he was mostly out for the second half. He's getting an MRI done. He got an MRI done on Monday, but no results as of recording this on Tuesday. Denver Broncos lost safety Duke Iannaccio and tackle Ryan Clady to injury. This will remain to be seen whether they are out long term or not. No word on either of them. One's an ankle, so those high ankle sprains can be testy. Foot injuries for safety and a tackle are very tough to deal with. Another guy went for an MRI on Monday was Darius Hayward-Bay. He hurt his shoulder in the Indianapolis Colts loss to the Dolphins. Saints cornerback Patrick Robinson suffered a knee injury in the last-second win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Robinson had to be carted off the field, and it did not look good. He might be out for some time, possibly even the season. Colts coach Chuck Pagano announced that starting guard Donald Thomas is out for the season with a torn quadricep. Chargers wide receiver Malcolm Floyd suffered a scary neck injury in the San Diego win over the Eagles and was taken to a hospital after the game. Chargers coach Mike McCoy said Floyd was quote-unquote fine. Maybe he was just taken to the hospital for help. Where it wasn't serious? I don't know. Usually when you go to the hospital, it's pretty serious, so we'll have to wait and see again on that one. Right tackle for the St. Louis Rams, Roger Saffold, was carted off the field with a knee injury. He could be done for the year. Carolina Panthers safety Charles Godfrey suffered an Achilles injury. The docs have to look at it and let me know, Godfrey told the Charlotte Observer. He said they're going to do x-rays and a little bit more. So again, another guy could be done for a few weeks. San Francisco 49ers nose tackle Ian Williams broke his ankle during Sunday Night Football, and that's a huge loss for the 49ers defense. And broken ankle, we're looking at probably a season-ending injury again. Niners safety Eric Reed left the game with concussion. Again, with concussions, you never know, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Oakland Raiders safety Tyvon Branch departed in the first quarter with a significant ankle injury, so it's either a very bad sprain or possibly broken. No word yet from at this time, no word on what the seriousness is there. Wide receiver Hakeem Nicks of the Giants dislocated his middle finger during the loss to the Broncos, but he will play. He actually returned to the game within, I think, maybe like 10 plays. He was back in the game. So that is not significant there. He'll probably have a splint on it most of the week, but it looks like he'll be fine. Seahawks left tackle Russell Okung injured his ankle and did not return when in the Seahawks win over the 49ers. Again, that could have been more keeping him out to keep the ankle safe, but I think he looks like he's going to play this week. And finally this week, Niners tight end Vernon Davis left the game with a hamstring injury and did not return. He's going for testing. He went for testing on Monday, and unfortunately, again, as I say, at the time of this, recording, it's not available as to what the seriousness is. So let's look at the standings after that injury-riddled Week 2. In the AFC East, you have two leaders, co-leaders, the New England Patriots, both 2-0 with the Miami Dolphins. Now, here's the thing. They have the New England Patriots number 1 and Miami Dolphins number 2. I'm not sure why, simply because I think it's because of the divisional record, and I think that's what you go for tie-breaking procedures, which is why they're first. New England Patriots won 2 very close games, one against Buffalo and one against the Jets, and both games they probably should have lost. And that's not just saying it because the Buffalo Bills are my team. Both games they should have lost. They were not the better team on either of those nights. They just happened to have the lead when the clock expired. The Miami Dolphins look like a better team in both of their games. The Miami Dolphins actually have more points and have allowed less points. I think it's the division record which is giving the New England Patriots the lead in the AFC East. In the AFC North, only one win for the Baltimore Ravens has them. Two-way tie. I don't. Where the heck did I get this? Why is this not updated? Just a second there, folks. It looks like I'm having some technical difficulties with the standings website that I was looking on because it has the Cincinnati Bengals with only. There we go. They had them with one loss and no win, and they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football, so I knew that was wrong there. So it is the Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens leading the way in that AFC North, with the Browns and the Steelers 0-2, so Huge problem there. And to give you an understanding of how, like, I think the Bengals are the better team in that AFC North, which is a very weak division this year. The point differential for points for, points against, Cincinnati's a +7. Everybody else is negative. -14 for the Baltimore Ravens, who's given up 55 points. -21 for the Cleveland Browns, and -17 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is hugely way off. Over in the AFC South, Houston Texans leading the way with a 2-0 record. And in the AFC West, it's the Denver Broncos, so no surprise there, who are an amazing +40. They've scored 90 points in 2 games. They have given up 50. That's quite a bit. However, the Kansas City Chiefs are the biggest surprise, as they are also 2-0 in the AFC West, and that division just got a little tighter. Over in the NFC, in the East, we have a 2-way tie in the East. Dallas Cowboys and Philadelphia Eagles, each 1-1. Listen to this point differential. +4 for Dallas, +3 for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Giants, who are 0-2, and the Washington Redskins, who are 0-2, -23 for the Giants and -24 for the Redskins. Not good there. Over in the NFC North, my friend Adam will be happy to hear that his Chicago Bears are currently leading the way with a perfect 2-0 record, but only a +4 point differential. In the NFC South, it is the New Orleans Saints leading the way there, also 2-0, with a point differential of +8. Moving over to the NFC West, again, only a one-team show. Currently, the 2-0 Seattle Seahawks with a +31 point differential. As I said before, the Denver Broncos are the best team in the NFL currently, in my opinion, followed closely by the Seattle Seahawks, in my opinion. So, let's look at some statistics to see if I can back up any of my opinions. We'll look at some quarterback passing yardage. Aaron Rodgers leads the way with 813 yards. Peyton Manning comes in second with 769. Sam Bradford has 651. I guess I should be telling you what teams they play for if you don't know, just in case. Aaron Rodgers plays for the Packers. Peyton Manning plays for the Broncos. Sam Bradford plays for the Rams. And moving on to number 4, Matt Schaub of the Houston Texans has 644. And rounding out the top 5, Phillip Rivers of the San Diego Chargers has 614. What about touchdowns, you say? Well, the passing touchdowns, Peyton Manning of the Broncos leads the way with 9 passing touchdowns. Phillip Rivers of the Chargers and Aaron Rodgers of the Packers each have 7. Matt Schaub of the Texans has 6, while Sam Bradford of the Rams has 5. Let's move on to some rushing yards. Darren McFadden is leading the way for the Oakland Raiders with 177. D'Angelo Williams of the Carolina Panthers has 171 after 2 weeks. And get this, quarterback, not running back, quarterback Terrell Pryor, also of the Oakland Raiders, has 162 rushing yards. Most of that coming on his impressive Week 1 performance of 140 rushing yards, 141. Number 4 on the list, Ben Tate of the Texans with 148. That's right, I said Ben Tate of the Texans, not Arian Foster. Ben Tate currently leads the way, and again, that's led by his first week performance as well, where he, I believe, was over 105 yards or something like that. And then, rounding out the top 5, Marshawn Lynch of the Seattle Seahawks with 141 rushing yards. So who's your rushing touchdown leaders? Well, we have a tie, all with 2s. Adrian Peterson of the Vikings, Marshawn Lynch of the Seahawks, Joak Bell of the Detroit Lions, Michael Vick of the Philadelphia Eagles, again, another quarterback there, and then Noshawn Moreno of the Denver Broncos. Moving on to the receiving now. This time, your leaders here. Randall Cobb of the Packers leading the way with 236 receiving yards. Andre Johnson of the Texans has 222, while Anquan Bolden of the 49ers having a great year in his 49ers debut, 215 yards. Demaryius Thomas of the Broncos has 213, and rounding out the top 5, another Packer, Jordy Nelson with 196. And let's look at the recepted touchdowns. Eddie Royal of the San Diego Chargers has 5. And then we have a big tie log jam with 3 touchdowns each. Owen Daniels, a tight end of the Texans. Jordy Nelson of the Packers, Julius Thomas, another tight end of the Broncos, and then another Bronco with Wes Welker having 3 as well. So those are your touchdown leaders. Let's move on to some defense. Here are your tackling leaders. Luke Kuechly of the Carolina Panthers has 23 combined tackles. That's solo and assisted. Ryan Clark and Thomas Davies. Ryan Clark of the Pittsburgh Steelers and Thomas Davis of the Carolina Panthers each have 20 tackles. Navario Bowman of the 49ers has 19, and Duke Ihenacho of the Broncos, Ihenacho of the Broncos has 18. So let's look more defense, and we'll look at the sack leaders. Robert Quinn of the Rams has 4 sacks already in 2 games. That's 2 sacks per game. He's on pace for 32 sacks. That'd be impressive. Don't expect that pace to continue. Dontari Poe of the Chiefs has 3.5 sacks so far this season. Aldon Smith of the 49ers also has 3.5 sacks. Justin Houston of the Kansas City Chiefs, shouldn't he play for the Texans with a name like Justin Houston? That would just be awesome. Has 3 tackles, and then rounding out the top 5, Sean Phillips of the Broncos has 2.5 sacks. Now, I'm not sure why, but for some reason that seems wrong. I could have sworn that my Buffalo Bills, Mario Williams, had 4 sacks in this game alone. So I'm going to have to call foul on some of this. I'm not sure why these sacks are coming up like that. So I'm going to just take a peek at something else. And while I do, I will move on to the next stat category, and that being interceptions. And in the interceptions, there's a bunch of people that have 2 interceptions. So I'm going to actually take a look at these interceptions in a minute. I really want to find out about this sack situation, because it seems to me that the site I'm using, maybe I should be using a different site. I know that the Buffalo Bills had a great game this past week, and Mario Williams. Yes, I'm right. Okay, so we're going to do the sacks again, because Mario Williams had 4 sacks this past week, bringing his total to 4.5 sacks for 2-week total. Then it's Robert Quinn with his 4.0 sacks. Dontario Poe has 3.5, as well as Aldon Smith. And then rounding out the top 5, we have 3 people that have 3 sacks each. Robert Mathis of the Colts, Ryan Kerrigan of the Redskins, and again, that Justin Houston guy, again, I think he should be part of the Houston Texans. It just seems appropriate. Also has 3 sacks. So now let's move on to the interceptions. As I said, all these players have 2. That's Aqib Talib of the Patriots, Eric Reed of the 49ers, who I just said is injured and possibly out for a little bit, Charles Tillman of the Chicago Bears, Alteron Werner of the Tennessee Titans, Dimitri Patterson of the Miami Dolphins, DeAndre Levy of the Lions, and Chris Harris of the Broncos, each with 2 interceptions. Now, I do want to check to see if we have any defensive touchdowns that are more than 1, and we don't, so I'm not going to go through them all. When we get more as the weeks go on, I will add that in. So that is it. As I said, I'm not going to do the fantasy thing right now. There's just so much in this week's show that I want to kind of get through it all. So let's move on to WWE Night of Champions. Now, let's just recap my predictions, and I'll go through them as I go through the results later too. Alright, in the Tag Team Turmoil match, I said the Usos were going to win, but then lose their tag team opportunity, and the Shield would keep the tag team titles. At the time of the recording, I did not know that Dean Ambrose was going to be defending his U.S. title, but I said if he is, he would keep it. I said AJ Lee would win the Divas title. I also said that the Intercontinental title was not up for grabs, so I wasn't going to predict that, but in the match of Curtis Axel and Paul Heyman versus CM Punk, I said Axel would be eliminated, and Punk was get his hands on Paul. I never actually predicted a winner, so that was kind of weird. I said RVD would win the world title, and that Randy Orton would retain the world champion, or the WWE Championship. So let's see how I did with my predictions. Well, in the Tag Team Turmoil match, unfortunately, I was wrong right off the bat. The Primetime Players actually won, and this actually, when I thought about it, made a lot more sense. Why? Because the Primetime Players then went on later in the pay-per-view to lose to the Tag Team Champions, where the Shield retained. So my overall pick, as I said, the Tag Team Turmoil match last week, I said this was not actually part of the show. It was just part of the kickoff show to start the thing. And so, therefore, I wasn't even sure what was going to be happening there. But I picked the Usos just because I don't even know at the time. But I did say the Shield would win the Tag Team Championship match, and they did. They kept their belts. So, in the long run, I was right. A match that was thrown together that was not on last week was The Miz versus Fandango. If it had been, I would have picked The Miz just because I can't stand Fandango, and I would have been right. But you know what? I didn't pick it because I didn't know, so you can't say I'm 1-1 or 1-0 or whatever you want to call it. I consider myself 1-0 because the Shield defended their titles. So I'm 1-0 so far. Divas Championship. AJ Lee won the Fatal 4-Way. I am now 2-0. I picked AJ Lee to win the match, even though I kind of second-guessed myself later on with Natalya. But again, as I said, AJ Lee and Natalya were probably the only two in the match that were actually wrestlers. But I did pick AJ Lee to win in the start, and that's why I'm counting this a 3-0. A 3-0? Yeah. No, 2-0. The IC title was actually defended. It was a match that was impromptu, so Curtis Axel had to defend the Intercontinental Championship against Kofi Kingston, in which he retained. So, again, a wash. I did not know that match was happening. That match was actually announced on the kickoff show, so unfortunately I can't predict what I don't know is happening. The United States Championship was actually defended, and this one I did pick ahead of time. I said Dean Ambrose would retain no matter who he faced, and I was right. He defeated Dolph Ziggler to retain the title, so I am 3-0. Here is where it gets dicey. Now, I did say that CM Punk would eliminate Chris Axel, and he did. I said CM Punk would get his hands on Paul Heyman, and he did. He beat the living crap out of him. However, what I didn't say was I didn't predict a winner. I probably would have said that CM Punk would have won, but I didn't. I didn't predict a winner, mostly because I knew what was going to happen once CM Punk got his hands on Heyman. I thought there'd be a disqualification. Problem was, the match was turned into no disqualification during the kickoff show. That meant that even though CM Punk got his hands on Heyman and beat the living tar out of him, there was interference. There was outside interference, and not by Curtis Axel. After Curtis Axel was eliminated, he was sent to the back. And while CM Punk was ready to deliver some of the finishing blows to Paul Heyman, who should come in? Ryback. Ryback speared CM Punk through a table, pulled Paul Heyman's almost lifeless body on top of CM Punk, and Paul Heyman defeated CM Punk. You heard that right. I said Paul Heyman defeated CM Punk. Now, I don't know what to classify that as, because everything I said happened. I did not pick a winner. I said Axel would be eliminated and Punk would get his hands on Paul. That happened. I'm considering that another pick for me. Now, here's where I kind of went wrong. Rob Van Dam versus Alberto Del Rio for the World Heavyweight Championship. I said RVD would walk out World Champion. I shouldn't have said that. I should have said Rob Van Dam would win this match. Because he did. He won the match because of a disqualification. Alberto Del Rio deliberately got himself disqualified when he slapped on his finishing maneuver, the armbar submission that he uses. I forget what he calls it exactly. He's locked it on. RVD got to the ropes. He didn't break after 5, and that led to a disqualification. So RVD won the match, but did not win the title. I lose that one, and I also got the second one wrong. The other championship match, the WWE champion Randy Orton defended his title against Daniel Bryan, where Daniel Bryan won the WWE championship. Now, at the time of this recording, there is no WWE champion. Simply because in the final moments of the WWE title match, when Daniel Bryan covered Randy Orton. The referee came in, and his count went 1, 2, 3. He fast counted the first 2, and then did a normal 3 count for the third one. But due to the little quick fast count, well, that got Triple H out on Monday Night Raw. And on Monday Night Raw, he put the title in a abeyance or something like that. Basically, he stripped the title from Daniel Bryan, but he did not give it to Randy Orton. Right now, there is no WWE champion. The referee who quote-unquote fast counted has been quote-unquote fired from the WWE. As we all know, the WWE is filled with storylines. I do expect to see the referee again sometime soon. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Personally, I think the storyline is going to come out that when the referee had came out on Raw and basically said that they were kind of in cahoots, him and Daniel Bryan, with the fast count, I think Mr. COO Triple H paid off the ref to come out and say that. And we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But I think that's going to be pretty much the storyline, and then, eventually Daniel Bryan's going to get the title back. As I said last week, though, the WWE's hurting for some top-tier talent. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. So, I don't know. I mostly only do pay-per-views on the show here, so we'll just have to recap the next time there's pay-per-view. Just so you know, though, there are 2 pay-per-views in October, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Sorry about that. I'm moving on to some baseball. I'm getting sick and tired of baseball. Now that football is back, I am sick and tired of baseball. However, we started it. We will finish it. So in the American League East, we have the Boston Red Sox leading with a 92-60 record. In the Central, it is the Detroit Tigers leading with an 88-63 record. And in the West, it is the Oakland Athletics with an 88-62 record. Your wild card leaders currently are the Tampa Bay Rays with an 82-68 record, and the Texas Rangers with an equal 82-68 record. At the time of this recording, the Toronto Blue Jays have helped play spoiler by defeating the Yankees tonight. The Yankees are trying to make the playoffs. They are sitting 3.5 games out of the wild card as we speak. So, I'm personally hoping the Yankees don't make the playoffs, because then I don't even care who wins the World Series. As long as it's not the Yankees, I'll be a happy guy. And the Yankees are looking like they won't even be in the playoffs, so I'll be a happy guy. Moving over to the National League, in the East, it's the Atlanta Braves with an 89-62 record, leading the way. In the Central, it is the St. Louis Cardinals with an 87-63 record, leading there. And in the West, it is the LA Dodgers with an 86-64 record. Now, the 2 wildcard teams are technically both from the NL Central. I was going to say AL, but it's NL. So, all 3 of these teams are in contention to make the playoffs in some way, shape, or form. However, they are the wild card holders right now, and that is the Pittsburgh Pirates with an 87-64 record, and the Cincinnati Reds with an 86-66 record. Let's move on to statistics. Alright, your statistics are, in the batting categories, average leaders right now, Miguel Cabrera of the Tigers batting .349, Mike Trout of the Angels batting .331. Michael Kadire of the Rockies is batting .329. Chris Johnson of the Braves is batting .327. And Andrew McCutchen of the Pirates rounds out the top 5 batting .324. Your home run leaders, Chris Davis of the Orioles has 50 home runs. I think actually that might be 51, but we haven't updated yet, so we'll leave it at 50 for now. But let's just face it, I don't think Miguel Cabrera is winning that Triple Crown this year. Mostly because Miguel Cabrera is still stuck on 43 home runs from the Tigers. Edwin Encarnacion of the Jays has 36, and just recently has been put on the DL for the remainder of the season, which means that 36 will be the most he gets this year, and he probably will fall down this list and maybe off of it before the end of the season, with only about 14 games left, 2 weeks approximately. Mark Trumbo of the Angels has 34 home runs. Pedro Alvarez of the Pirates has 33, as does Paul Goldschmidt of the Diamondbacks. Your RBI leaders, and here's another reason why Miguel Cabrera might not be winning that Triple Crown, and probably won't. He has 133, Miguel Cabrera of the Tigers, But right behind him, Chris Davis of the Orioles has 131. So Chris Davis is catching up in that category, and he leads in the homer category. The only category that he doesn't lead in or remotely close at this point is the average one. So there will be no Triple Crown winner this year, is my prediction. More RBIs. Paul Goldschmidt of the Diamondbacks has 116. Edwin Encarnacion of the Jays will be stuck on 104 for the rest of the year, which means he'll be off this list within a week or two. Before the end of the season. Robinson Cano of the Yankees has 103. Stolen bases, your leader is Jacoby Ellsbury of the Red Sox with 52. Josh Segura of the Brewers has 44. Rajai Davis of the Jays has 41. Elvis Andrus of the Rangers has 40. And rounding out the top 5, Eric Young of the Mets has 38. Let's move over to the pitching side of things, and your ERA leaders are Clayton Kershaw of the Dodgers with 1.94 ERA. Jose Fernandez of the Marlins has a 2.19 ERA. He's about the only good thing in Miami right now. Matt Harvey of the Mets is still holding at 2.27. Anibal Sanchez of the Tigers has a 2.50 ERA. And Bartolo Colon of the Athletics has a 2.73 ERA. Your pitching win leaders, still stuck on 19. Max Scherzer of the Tigers. Jordan Zimmerman is catching up of the Nationals. He's at 18. C.J. Wilson of the Angels has 17, and then Jorge De La Rosa of the Rockies, Chris Tillman of the Orioles, Adam Wainwright of the Cardinals, Bartolo Colon of the Athletics, and Francisco Liriano of the Pirates all have 16 wins. Your strikeout leaders, Yu Darvish still leading the way there with 256 from the Rangers, Max Scherzer of the Tigers has 227, Clayton Kershaw of the Dodgers and Chris Sale of the White Sox each have 214, and then Cliff Lee of the Phillies and Adam Wainwright round out the category with 201, at least the top echelons of the category. Your save leaders, Craig Kimbrell of the Braves has 47, Jim Johnson of the Orioles has 46, Greg Holland of the Royals and Mariano Rivera of the Yankees has 43, and rounding out the top 5 is Rafael Soriano of the Nationals with 41. That is your baseball statistics. That is another Warlock Hour here on Warlock Wednesdays, here on the Ehnother Podcast Network. That's right, Ehnother Podcast. You can listen to us on all kinds of media on ehnotherpodcast.com. That's EHNOTHER podcast.com. You can find us on Stitcher.com, or you can even download us on iTunes under Ehnother Podcast. Remember, tune in every week for the shows. We have Ehnother Monday with the Ehnother Podcast. Real Tuesdays featuring real music, and that's REEL, real music. And then you have me here on Warlock Wednesdays with the Warlock Hour, and that is it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you come back next week. I know you all don't listen to sports, but I hope you do. Hope you enjoyed it, as I said, and I'm out. Thanks for listening to Ehnother Podcast from Ehnotherpodcast.com. Don't forget to go on iTunes and or download right from Ehnotherpodcast.com. That's EHNOTHER podcast.com. Follow us on Twitter at Ehnother Podcast. Be sure to check back for tomorrow's show only on Ehnother Podcast, your Canadian podcast network. Ehnotherpodcast.com. Not a sponsor.